When people ask me the question sub versus dub, I always reply with the answer, be more specific, because I cannot put a blanket overgeneralization in that debate. I can only answer to specific anime. But if I have to overgeneralize, well, a lot of the times they are unnecessary, but sometimes they can increase immersion. It makes little sense that an anime that has a Western vibe or takes place in the West or have Western characters have characters that speak Japanese as their primary language. I still find it a bit nonsensical to have anime that takes place in Japan with Japanese characters to be dubbed. It's actually not just limited to anime, but when they're good, I don't really mind watching them. Regardless of your opinion on the whole subs versus dubs debacle, since most of the people who handle the dubs are now living in the Western Hemisphere, there are two great things that came out of this. Dubs have significantly improved. However, this also comes with a drawback. Some dubbers are not afraid to insert some form of a political statement in their dubs. Do a little bit of Googling in prison school and you'll find out that the dub in there used to contain words like Gamergate creeps. Also, Google the Dragon Maid dub where Lukwa talks about the patriarchy. No, I'm not kidding. Although the one thing I find hilarious about the Dragon Maid dub is not necessarily the patriarchy statement, that is obviously nowhere to be found in the anime itself, but rather that people just now find it out when the dub has been released months prior. Says a lot to the dubbing market these days. Today, another anime that falls victim on the social justice crowd is none other than Hajimete no Gal, an anime about a guy named Junichi who pretends to have a girlfriend Yukana, only to find out that everyone around them is getting more and more attracted to the guy. Which part is talking about social justice? Well, before we get to that, let's get into the Japanese scene. So the context is that there's this cosplay cafe and the manager decided to have the buxom young girls working there to partake in a book day event. The books are basically erotic light novels disguised as normal books. Well, Japan, you do you, I guess. In the original translation, the main character Junichi says that the manager is going too far and that he shouldn't make high school girls to read those stuff. They might be light novels, but they're far too perverted. The manager responds by saying it's good. Why make them read something normal? The girls would get all red and embarrassed as they read them. That's what makes the customers happy. Well, I can see how getting embarrassed for the customers can be appealing to some people, but at least some speck of honesty would be nice. Junichi, the main character, retorts by saying, think about how the girls feel. They won't read embarrassing lines like that in front of other people. The manager scolds him by saying that he's a pretty arrogant part-timer. Standard anime affair, but what the dubbers did to the scene is actually pretty freaking interesting. One of the girls shouted, I cannot read this misogynistic crap. What is that creep thinking? It's downright degrading. You could have just written that as, I can't read this is too dirty, what is that creep thinking? That would make sense. If you say that sexy things are misogynistic and degrading, why are you working in a cosplay cafe? The entire job is literally degrading you into a visual appeal for the guest. It's like staying in a house full of fire and complains that the fire is too hot. And to the writer, if this isn't what the character is thinking and it's actually you projecting yourself in it, I would also make that comparison. You're dubbing an anime that literally has freaking tits as a selling point. In your case, it's like being in a mafia and says murdering people is wrong. Instead of having Junichi says that it's too much, he then said that you can't make high school girls read the crap. They may be light novels, but they're heavy on the creepy sex stuff. Creepy sex stuff. I won't deny that certain light novels are definitely creepy, especially if you want to see their early drafts being published at fanfiction.net, but since we don't really know the creepiness of said erotic novels in the anime, they may be referring to just a novel of two people having sex, described erotically, as in the most vanilla of vanilla sex. The reason why the Japanese version does not mention it being creepy and only say that it's lewd is because we don't really know if the content is creepy. Lewd definitely, but creepy? It's also rich coming from the main character for those of you who are familiar with the anime, but for those of you who don't, well, he has lewd fantasies himself that might fall into the creepy territory. But that's not the best part. The best part is the manager saying, of course, where's the fun in forcing these jailbait tricks to read something decent? I seriously have no idea why they cannot be faithful to the Japanese translation, but maybe the next line can answer it for you. He then says, plus, most of the freaks who come in here hate women, so seeing girls degraded gives them boners and make them happy. Funny. Come here. Men love sexy women. Keyword, love. They don't think women as sluts or dumb cunts unless they actually act like it. We don't hate women. We only hate the ones that are really dumb, really entitled, hypocritical, and absolute cunts. It's funny because believe it or not, I've had people who call me misogynistic for sharing this picture. 3D women are not important. The reason why I love this meme so much is not because I hate women, but because you hate it. You're not a representative of women. Do I seriously think that women are not important? Well, if you can't tell, then maybe you should go back to being a normie, grandpa. Anyway, Junichi had the balls to say, well, maybe think about how these girls feel for once. Maybe they don't want to be debased just so that you can sell them a few more chicken wings to horny losers with mommy issues. And then, the winning freaking quote from the manager, this is what he said. Book day's been cancelled, you guys. Another win for you SJW millennials. Wow. Wow. Now, some of you might consider caring about this stuff to be petty and insignificant. Well, that's fine. You're a productive member of society, and you should leave us weebs alone. Some of you might say, I don't care about dubs. All dubs are shit anyway. Well, you don't, but I do. So why are you still here? And some of you might say, well, Hajimete no Galaxy shit anime anyway. Irrelevant. Shit anime is shit, but at least they don't shove social justice trash. I didn't think Prison School was that great either, but that Gamergate line was objectively garbage. So garbage, Funimation decided to change it due to backlash. And speaking of backlash, Funimation decided to post this. I don't know if this is like response to the entire thing, but let's just read what we have here.
We at Funimation want you to have an open dialogue for fans. We welcome your praise as well as your criticism and suggestion for improvement. As fans and members of the anime community, there will be things that we don't all agree on, and there is always room for discussion and vocalizing those viewpoints. However, harassing, doxing, threats, or cruelty of any kind are unacceptable and will be taken very seriously. There is no place for that in this community from any side. We're always listening and always striving to be better. Let's do it together.
Sign Funimation. This message is so vague, I don't know if this was made as a response to the dub or if this was made as a response to other things. Try next time to be more specific and actually address the issues. This entire response feels like some form of a red herring. Sure, we have crappy dubs, but guys, stop with the harassment, okay? You know, when the Dream Daddy fan artists receive death threats, I do not focus on the death threats, I focus on the critiques. I want to know what makes people so mad to the point where they would send death threats into a fan artist who drew a Rule 63 fan art. Maybe they have legitimate concerns. Turns out that they don't. I still to this day do not understand why would they send death threats over fan arts. Funimation, people send hate on the internet all the time, and you cannot fix that. It's impossible. I think what would be a lot more productive thing to do is, instead of virtuoso-nilling of how you condemn harassment and doxing, which is a default position that everyone has anyway, you should focus in why that happened. And the reason why that happened is probably because you shoved unnecessary social justice elements into your anime. Also, it would be nice if you just define what is and isn't harassment, what is and isn't doxing or threats, because sometimes you can conflate them into actual criticisms. To solely focus on the harassment aspects is only ignoring the real issue here. The real issue here is dubbers and writers who make unnecessary changes to the dub. People harass others all the time on the internet. And that is if you define harassment as people saying mean words to each other. The best way for us to deal with that is just to ignore them and don't give them power. How many times should I say this? As a final note, remember that mafia comparison? Well, Funimation, before you even make any attempts in insulting people for loving sexy women, maybe try to look at yourself in the mirror. Before we end this video, huge thanks to Ilan and Euros Plavek for the donation and the pledge. You guys are fantastic. That's all for the video today. If you like this, you can go ahead, click the like button, and subscribe for more. If you wish, you can support me on Patreon. And thanks for watching.